on this, but at least for me personally, when it comes to Kobe Bryant, the mindset that always kind of got me where I am today is that Kobe Bryant's whole philosophy is on work ethic. I mean, everything he did was all about work ethic. I mean, one of his really famous quotes is said is, "It doesn't matter how hard you work, I'm always going to work harder than you." And I love that because that's the way that I perceive everything. And when it comes to school, I mean, anybody who knows me knows that if I'm dedicated to something, I will work my ass off until I beat everybody in that space, because that's just like what I love to do. And it really came from me understanding the way that Kobe did it, because seeing somebody else do it before allows you to be able to really
envision
and perceive it. And that also comes to like Nipsey Hussle. Once again, we also lost him this year. When it comes to life is a marathon, not a sprint. And that's another philosophy. Those two together is the reason why I even talked to Nikhil about creating Free Logic Media, and the reason why currently building out Edge Sound Research and Cannabis Lifestyle and all these companies is because life really is a marathon. It's not something that something just happens. You gotta really work for it. But then combine that with Kobe's philosophy of you gotta be the hardest worker in the room. If you don't put in the work for something, things just don't happen. And I think that's a mindset that I wish every single business student, not just business student, any student, any field you want to go into, if you really care about what you're trying to do, be the best in your craft and be patient with it. Because good things happen if you work for those things.
Definitely, and that Mamba mentality, as they say, right? You just work your ass off as hard as you can. And I was watching actually on ESPN2 when Jay Williams, if you guys know Jay Williams, former basketball player, he got hurt in a motorcycle accident, and then he basically couldn't play basketball anymore. He was talking about how he actually was sharing this story about him and Kobe Bryant, and he says that he was actually practicing before a game, and literally Kobe went there too as well to practice.
Yeah.
And Kobe was actually there for like 5 hours, and he was practicing for like 2 hours, and then he left. And then after the game, the Lakers whooped their ass, and thankfully, just kidding. Just kidding. But basically, what happened was, Jay Williams went up to Kobe after and was like, "Hey, what drives you, or what basically drives you and your motivation?" And I remember he said that Kobe was basically like, "Oh, I saw you working in the gym, so I had to make sure that I was working harder than you."
Yep.
Right. That same mentality, especially for coming from different backgrounds, especially from that underdog turn winner story, right? If you're able to apply that specifically with you networking, then you can be able to go into any company.
Yep.
Because like, for example, like I remember I would go drive to OC because that's where I wanted to work. I would look at the skyscrapers, look at the companies that work there, and then write them down. Then go home, look at the career website, and then I network with people on LinkedIn to specifically network with those people to get into these opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to put, for example, allocate time, especially for networking, because like people will, for example, I remember my first 2 years, I was just like partying, and I wasn't being focused in my career. And I realized that I was allocating time to things that were temporary rather than things that are long-term, right? So if you're able to allocate, for example, 4 hours, like skip a party for 4 hours, allocate that time to networking, maybe that's 8 phone chats, 30 minutes. You know how much value will come just from that?
It can change your life.
Right? It changes your life, right? And for example, like definitely like I remember too, like I would be like, man, should I go fly to Alpha Convention? Because we had that every single year. I was like, man, it's $500, right? I was like, should I do it? But in reality, I was thinking about it later on. I was like, hell yeah, I should. Because at the end of the day, if I pay $500 to get into a dream company and make $80,000, that $500 is nothing.
And a lot of people buy new phones, they buy iPhones, they buy whatever the latest tech is, but they invest their money into things that don't really matter, but they do it because the perspective that a lot of people think about them, like it's sad, obviously, unfortunately, but like a lot of people put their money into things that don't matter. Like a lot of people ask me like, oh, why did you invest money into Free Logic Media? Why are you putting your money that you're making from Esri into your own company? I'm like, because this is going to pay dividends when I'm older. This is going to pay money when I'm older. I believe in this vision. I believe what we're doing. And that really kind of goes back to your point, is just that your time and your money should be allocated towards the things that don't just matter now or just because it's clout, but because they matter in the long term.
Definitely. You have to look at that long-term game at the end of the day, right? And that's amazing. I actually do the same thing specifically with my job, and I put it into Wonsulting, right? Because when you're investing back into these companies that you're passionate about, and I see both of you guys passionate for Free Logic Media, then that at the end of the day is what's going to take you into that. I'm assuming you guys want to do this full-time eventually in that scale, right? That'll be able to take you into that time from being in corporate or working at a company to being your own boss, right? Because I feel like at the end of the day, we should all be our own bosses. I don't want to For example, I want to be my own boss and do my own thing, but also impact thousands of lives, right? And so do you guys. So, yeah, definitely have that mindset and perspective, and it can get you places.
Definitely.